This is 5-time ROH World Tag Team Champion, the Zombie Princess Jimmy Jacobs, and I want you to listen to the source of all things Ring of Honor, the Honor Society, only on the Turnbuckle Tavern. And hey, I'm a princess. I always get what I want.
Welcome to the 13th episode of the Honor Society, covering all things Ring of Honor as we preview Final Battle. As always, I'm Stephen Acefield, the ace of the Tavern, live from the No Cell Studios, and I am joined by the returning Freemz. What's up, man?
Oh, not much, dude. Glad to be back. I won't miss any Ring of Honor stuff, so.
Dude, when Ring of Honor popped on again, we just knew we had to get you back on. It's been a while, dude. We haven't done our society since Death Before Dishonor. Just tell everybody what you've been up to as far as on the streaming end, just to get your stuff out there.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Freemz. Have a couple of new shows that we've been doing. We have You Cringe, You Drink, which is a drinking show. And then we have Get High, You Laugh, You Lose.
Amazing.
Another show.
So just as creamy as ever on Twitch, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it creamy.
Well, dude, it's so great to have you back. And we're going to talk a little bit about the history of Final Battle before we move in. So, as you know, this event was initially held in 2002. It's traditionally ROH's last show in the calendar year. The 09 edition of the show was ROH's first internet pay-per-view and the first ROH show to be broadcast live. The 2010 edition and the 2011 edition were also broadcast live via the internet. And Final Battle, as both of us can probably attest to watching Ring of Honor for about 10, 15 years, you even longer than that, has become ROH's premier flagship event, similar to WrestleMania. So just initial thoughts on Final Battle and seeing it have this platform here under the AEW flagship, and they're keeping the spirit of this event up.
Yeah, man. I love it. It feels weird. I don't know if you think this or not, that it's not on the East Coast.
I was about to mention that as well. That's a very good point.
You know, usually it's in like Philly or New York, Baltimore, but they're doing it in Arlington, Texas, which doesn't matter. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it at this like high level of a production. I hope Tony Khan takes it serious as how big of an event this is for Ring of Honor fans. The card looks great though. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a great mention since its inception. The event has been held in places like Philly, New York City, Edison, New Jersey, Baltimore, Maryland. And between 2006 and 2014, every Final Battle was held at either Grand Ballroom or the Hammerstein Ballroom of the Manhattan Center in New York City. So East Coast is usually where Final Battle is, but maybe Tony Khan, while keeping the tradition of Ring of Honor, he wants to move it elsewhere, which you can't blame him for because he has to stay in the same area where they're running Winter is Coming, which is always going to be in Texas. So they got to switch it up a little bit.
And I'm fine with that. I mean, as the thing grows, it's going to hopefully even outgrow some of those arenas. It's been arenas, theaters, I guess is what you would call them in the past. So,
yeah, and I saw Ian Riccaboni did a tweet today where he talked about, even though the ticket sales have not sold out the arena yet in Texas, there is just the feeling that he has that it's still going to be the largest crowd that he's going to be performing in front of or announcing in front of. So ROH lives and breathes to this day. So the spirit of it is at least there. And as hopefully, fingers crossed, following this, we can get a TV deal. Of course, we'll talk about that during the scoop. But
yeah,
I mean, it just feels special. It feels like Ring of Honor is still a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited.
So looking at the other past Final Battle events, the first one being held 2002 at the Murphy Recreation Center, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, which is 20 years ago, December 28th, so just about there. It was Bryan Danielson versus Low Ki versus Samoa Joe versus Steve Corino in a four-way match for the number one contenders trophy. Did you watch that event, and do you remember anything about it? I'm sure you've seen the tape of it, though.
I've seen a tape of it. I mean, 2002 was a little bit before my time because I was pretty young. Not long before, but it was definitely before my time. Yeah, I mean, that's a classic match, you know?
In 03, the main event was the Pennsylvania National Guard Armory, December 23rd, 2003. And that 03 is when I started watching ROH myself. And the main event there was the Prophecy, which is the team of Christopher Daniels and Dan Maff versus Great Muna and Arashi. So Great Muta spending some time here. We're seeing him in the news with his retirement, Sting working that match with Darby Allin. So seeing Muta, people probably didn't realize that he spent some time in ROH.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Looking at the other final battles, is there any that catches your eye? Do you remember any final battles that you specifically watched live and that kind of blew you away as far as their main events go?
It's hard to beat 2010. The El Generico and Kevin Steen for the Generico's mask or Steen's career.
Yeah, for sure.
And then they had another great match the year after that, the ladder match. So,
yep. 2011 was main evented Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards with Dan Severn in his corner for the ROH Championship. So different time. Davey Richards, very talented guy, and that's a different era of Ring of Honor. And that's what's really cool about looking at the Final Battle cards. There's a whole bunch of different staggered eras of Ring of Honor. You can see the different rosters and change.
I skipped a year. I guess it went 2010, then 2012 was the other Generico Steen match.
Right. The Doomsday. That was 2012 Doomsday, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I had them mixed up. You're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
But looking at some of the stuff that they had, like just the rosters and how they changed, and like you can even see the later years with Cody involved in 2017, and then the early years with guys like the Briscoes are still there, and Kenta being champion in 05. It's just Ring of Honor can really be segmented in different eras of time, and I just think that's the coolest thing about it.
Yeah. Has CM Punk ever main evented a Final Battle?
I'm looking through the main events and it doesn't look like he is, but of course he's been on Final Battles in the past. I just don't think he main evented. I'm looking at the one from 04 that I know he competed out of in Edison, New Jersey. That was main evented by Kenta and Low Ki. So CM Punk definitely is on my card. If you probably look it up, I think he wrestled Raven out of Final Battle.
There's a history of not headlining the big show, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It was all written in history. All right. With that being said, let's go to the scoop. I have some news to go through, talk about all the stuff going on in ROH. And of course, we're going to break down the card. That's why you guys are here. We're about an hour before Final Battle kicks off on pay-per-view, an early start, 4 p.m. So glad you're joining us. We're going to preview the card, get you guys all primed up and ready to go. So let's go to the scoop. All right, let's start with the first news story. Freemz, we get Carrie Silkin wished everybody competing. He says he won't be in attendance this year. So this will be the first one that Carrie Silkin hasn't been involved in over 20 years. So he wrote on Instagram, "This is the first Final Battle I will not be in attendance for. Nothing lasts forever. It was essentially a tradition to have Final Battle in New York City, sometimes Philly, and then Baltimore." And then he posted a classic poster from the 2010 Final Battle, which featured Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly, Kenny King, Rhett Titus, TJ Perkins, Chris Daniels, Homicide, and so on. So he mentioned and said good luck to all these years participants. And this is an end of an era. Carrie Silkin, former owner of Ring of Honor. And it's the first time in its long history he won't be involved or even there. So what do you feel about that, Freemz?
It's, I get it. I mean, it's doesn't really change the show, but it, you know, for Ring of Honor fans, we're big nostalgia people. It'd be cool to see him there, see him involved in some way, but at some point you have to. I mean, he has no business with it anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and it doesn't seem like it was like negative or had any like ill will towards anything.
I just think it's the fact it's not on the East Coast. I mean, this has sort of been a theme we've talked about since the opening of the show. You mentioned it. He just wasn't able to go there, and I'm sure he has other business and things like that. He can't just drop everything, go to Texas. If it was in New York, he probably would have made it a priority to take the train or drive in or do whatever. So, as we know, we're both East Coast guys at heart. You lived in the East Coast at one point in your life, right?
I live in West Virginia, but I've spent a lot of time in like Philly and
Yeah. I just think about that because you're a Philly fan. So I always thought, you're a Philly guy. Just a Philly guy at heart.
Absolutely. Yeah, spent a lot of time there.
All right, so we have the next news story, and obviously we saw Shane Taylor make an appearance on AEW programming. If you guys remember, Shane Taylor made a visits the Tavern as well. So if you guys go back in the archives, the Too Bad Chads interviewed Shane Taylor, talked about his career, and really interesting story. So Shane Taylor was on a podcast called Knockouts and Three Counts to hype up this weekend's Final Battle pay-per-view, where the baddest man on the planet will be teaming up with JD Griffey to battle Swerve in Our Glory. And he talks about just this is a coming out party. There's a lot of people that are new to AEW or new to ROH that have no idea who he is. And this is what he said. This is the thing about wrestling. You can't really blame them. They're going with the best options that they feel they have available at the time. When you have a situation like when ROH closed down, there was a bunch of releases from WWE as well. It's the surge of talent that you didn't expect to have fall into your lap, and you sift through however you can. You go to the best options you feel, though, are available. It's with any group, any company, any sport. And he says it's really, there's no hard feelings about AEW not picking him up until right now. But Shane Taylor, really talented dude.
Yeah. He's been was he part of the 6-man tag champions?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame that he couldn't be on the first Ring of Honor show. I was kind of surprised, but he was with Ring of Honor for a long time.
Yeah, so he talked about his ROH Final Battle match where he is obviously teaming with JD Griffey, as we just mentioned, against Swerve in Our Glory. He said, my job now is to go out and do what everybody who's been a fan of me for years knows I can do. And to now show whoever doesn't know who I am, like we've said before, this is my Jay-Z moment. Allow me to reintroduce myself. Let me show you why I am Shane T, the baddest champion you've ever seen, the baddest of all time, and why I'm like every bit the guy that I say I am. So this is a good opportunity for him. We watched people like Willow Nightingale, who used the platform of ROH, get some attention, momentum behind her, and look at her. She's all elite. She's now a big focal point of the AEW women's division.
Yeah, if you remember, I was praising her heavy from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm partial to her as well. I mean, living on Long Island, she's trained at NYWC. She's been a local favorite for a long time. So all the success she has is so well-deserved, and I'll support her wherever she goes. And she's every bit as kind of a person that she's portraying on TV. Truly, she's really one of the nicest people I've ever met.
Yeah, I've never met her, but she's a hell of a wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, same thing with Shane Taylor. I look at these guys that have this pedigree of ROH, and I do appreciate that Tony Khan's trying to keep the same spirit of it. And he's getting frustrated in the media. You hear him on these media calls where people they're saying two things. There's two different camps of people that say they don't like the ROH shit on the AEW programming, or they feel like Final Battle wasn't built up enough. Where do you stand on that? Do you think right now that they were focused too heavy on ROH for a long time, or do you think they were doing it okay with Final Battle?
I think they're doing it okay. I don't know. I always say that no one hates wrestling more than wrestling fans.
That is very true.
And they're always going to find something to complain about. So, yeah, I don't think it's been a big deal. I don't think they've ever done it. Super excited about Final Battle. Even at the beginning, I don't think they pushed it too heavy. If anything, I feel like the stuff doesn't get pushed enough. But I get why it's not pushed enough. But they're kind of where they're at until they get a show. So, but you make
and I think we'll get into that in the news.
Gotta keep it fresh in people's minds for when a new show does come.
Right. It's a delicate balancing act that Tony Khan has in his hands, because at this point, you have to keep it in people's psyche, but you also don't want to book ROH in lieu of your AEW storylines. And I think for a few months, he was trying to get his feet under him. We see the AEW storylines suffer. We've all talked about it, that there was felt disjointed. And that may have something to do with the injuries. It may have a lot to do with the CM Punk situation, but it also has to do with you're managing a whole other roster with a championship set that you need to prioritize. The world champion, the tag champs, the pure championship, the TV championship. All of that is sort of up in the air, and you have to find a delicate balance. And I think finally Tony's in that sweet spot just in time to get a TV deal, hopefully on HBO Max or elsewhere.
So you want to hear what's probably going to be my hottest take of the night?
Yes, do it.
Shane Taylor and JD Griffey win this.
I like the sound of that.
I think they win it.
Do you think there's going to be a Keith Lee Swerve and a Swerve Strickland breakup? Is that what's happening?
I think they've been leaning towards that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this too: if a show gets announced tonight, Shane Taylor and JD Griffey definitely win this.
Oh yeah. So the show, as we talked about, we'll be watching this probably 3:30. We're probably going to put this on. Tony Khan explained back in November why he was airing 4 in the afternoon, and this is something that he had said the college football landscape changes on that day. So it's a unique opportunity for us to run in the afternoon and see if there's a market for us. There's a great game between Army and Navy, but it's not a typical big conference football Saturday. It's a great opportunity for us. It will be different for us in the afternoon, but we're excited for it. And we're going to deliver a great show for wrestling fans. As we both have talked about, there's 2 different events going on. There's a NXT special, and there's also going to be the UFC event. Do you think it's more of he wants to see if there's a market in the afternoon, or do you think he's afraid to go head-to-head with UFC?
I think he's afraid to go head-to-head with the UFC.
It's probably a smart idea.
Yeah, he's not going to come out and say that, but it has to be that, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that is something that, listen, nobody wants to go head-to-head with UFC. Then the only thing that can go head-to-head with UFC is the NFL and come out unscathed, you know?
Yeah. I think that funding to see if there's a market is a silver lining, maybe. I don't want to go head-to-head with them, but at least we can see if people will watch it at 4 p.m.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it because people, we watch football, we watch sports during the day. There's 1 o'clock baseball games, 4 o'clock baseball games. Football's 1 and 4 as well. I don't know why wrestling feels like it has to be at night. WrestleMania used to be during the day, right?
Yeah, and I feel like if you are going earlier, you open your door for kids to be able to watch it.
True.
Not all kids stay up till a lot of kids go to bed at 8 or 9. So
it's a good point. And I like it. It sets ROH in a different platform than AEW and something different. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. They'll go back to evening 7 o'clock. But I do like it's a 4 o'clock on a Saturday. It feels like a sporting event.
I love it because I have to work tomorrow, and it's going to help me kill time at work.
That's that is a silver lining for yourself there.
Absolutely.
So this is the 3rd ROH pay-per-view in the Tony Khan period of ownership. And according to Tony Khan, the first 2, which was April's Supercard of Honor, July's Death Before Dishonor, they broke sales records and attendance records for the organization. So as much as people want to talk about how ROH has become a burden for booking-wise, that it doesn't feel like it's the same ROH, which I disagree with, but people are saying that he is giving it the love it deserves. He's not putting it in a vault. He's not treating it as just content like WWE did with ECW. They tried to revitalize it. It failed, and now it just sits on a shelf and, it becomes an option on Peacock. Easily AEW could have used it to build up maybe the allure or coax someone to have a streaming platform to have more content. But they're not doing that. They're trying to keep it alive and well. And at the very least, as an ROH fan, I think we can just be complimentary of how Tony Khan's prioritizing it.
Yeah, and for any reason that it might feel different is because we don't have a weekly product. That's the only thing that feels real different, and that's out of his hands right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ian Riccaboni was appearing at the virtual sign in K&S WrestleFest. And he's obviously a long-time Ring of Honor personality people respect. And he saw a lot of ROH champions. And he talked specifically about Chris Jericho's ROH championship reign. And he got a little pub for this quote here. He said, Jericho, he's done more for the ROH brand in the last 10 years, 20 years, and maybe almost more than anybody ever. He's got that belt on TV every week, defending it faster, more times than anybody. He's a great champion, to be perfectly honest. So I ask you, Freemz, you've been a longtime ROH fan. Where does Chris Jericho rank as far as ROH champions go? And have you shifted from the mindset that a lot of classic ROH fans have had, that maybe he was creating a bastardization of the ROH championship belt?
Oh, God, that's a good question. he doesn't feel like an ROH champion, right? Like there's not really a show right now. It's just something that's going on within AEW. I don't think he's done it a disservice, and I think he's doing better than what most people would do in the situation he has with it, and I think it keeps the belt relevant, adds a lot of relevancy and legitimacy to it. So I think given the situation, he's done amazing.
I completely agree with you there. Like when he first won it from Claudio, I felt personally that it was the ROH brand dying. It felt like when the ECW championship was won by Vince McMahon. And like, I know, or even like when they had the ECW championship won by Mark Henry and they changed the title to this silver championship. It was on a completely different brand, but I'm willing to eat those crows from the All Elite Farms that the Two Bad Chads have. I was completely wrong. The way they booked this it's been perfect. It's been the absolute perfect way to keep ROH relevant and to have a guy who is someone that you can build around and then pass the torch to someone else. If you want a TV deal, you have to have a name brand, and Chris Jericho is the perfect bridge to get old fans and new fans together and have them watch your product.
Him losing that title is going to be huge, especially if there's a show. So yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be great, especially if there's a show and they get to do the whole like wrestling versus sports entertainment, have the wrestler beat the sports entertainer. It's going to be great.
Yeah, I thought they were building towards Garcia taking that championship, and maybe they still are with Garcia still in the JAS and he's still hanging around with them. I just felt like that story writes itself. When you want to light that fire again and have Daniel Garcia take that title, I think he could be the modern day Bryan Danielson for the new ROH brand, and I'm hoping that's where they're going.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better person. I think it'd be great.
So speaking of Jericho, he commented on why AEW brought Colt Cabana back to TV. We can all make our assumptions about it. We all think it's just a snub at CM Punk, but he was on Talk is Jericho this week, and on November 2nd, Dynamite, he did have Cabana wrestle him, which can't believe that's over a month ago, right? That's insane. And he said, we wanted to bring Colt back onto the show, reintroduce him. He had a pretty rough year as well. He's a former ROH champion, the tag champion, always enjoyed his work, a very solid worker, and it was fun to have him back. And that's the reason why he came back solely, was just because we wanted to have him on the show and reintroduce him. He hadn't been on TV for a while. So, and he also said Colt was always a guy that had we talked about doing something with, Colt and Dalton Castle and PCO. But PCO wasn't going to work out, so we used Bandito. I think that's what it was. So there's a couple things to unpack here. First things first, the Colt Cabana stuff. Do you buy what Chris Jericho's saying, or is it simply just him lying to everybody's face? Because it felt like a CM Punk shot.
I think people are real creative, and they want the story to be more than what it is. I think what happened was, in my personal opinion, I think Tony Khan thought Ring of Honor was going to get a show quicker than what it got. I thought he wanted Colt Cabana on Ring of Honor. I don't think it had anything to do with CM Punk. And I think they brought him back because there's not a show yet. And
right.
I think that's it. I think people like to speculate and make stuff sound more dramatic than what it is, but I don't know. You know, I could be wrong. It could be all about CM Punk, but
right. So the PCO stuff, that's another person that caught my mind here. Like PCO is a guy, the former ROH champion, one of the newer edge ROH guys, longtime wrestler, obviously follow his history. He was wrestling WWF in 1992. I love PCO. I was clamoring for him when he was talking about bringing a former champion out. I thought it was PCO. I just love that he's in the pipeline that potentially could someday work with the new ROH. It just had me really excited.
I just wonder, like, he's pretty old, right?
He's very old. I mean, I would say he's close to, I would almost guess he's over 60. That would be my guess.
Let me look it up. 54.
Okay.
God, that's wild. Sting looks better than he does.
Yeah, that's true.
I do think it'd be cool to have him around, but how much can he do? Yeah.
I'm not saying for a full run there. I just think that PCO, there's some more story that could be told with that character. And I just love what they were doing right at the tail end as the champion. I don't know. I really enjoyed his run there as like the Frankenstein character. And I don't know. I think it'd be an awesome little layer for the new ROH program.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's. I think he's cool. I'm being kind of a shitter right now, but
No, it's all good. I understand. I mean, I understand he's not someone you build around. And Jericho, how old's Jericho? 40 something years old. So you don't want to program PCO versus Chris Jericho for the championship. But I think as a one-off, I think PCO could help maybe build some structure and teach the young guys how to work a little bit. PCO has been all over the world. I mean, part of the Quebecers. I mean, goddamn.
yeah, he's actually Jericho's 52, so there's only a 2-year.
Oh shit, that's crazy.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Wow.
I wouldn't mind seeing a program. It just feels weird. Like it'd be a weird ROH program, but
right,
I'd watch it.
So the final thing in the news here, Tony Khan's announcement that is, he alluded to it, and he's, while not, this is from the newsletter with Dave that just was posted earlier today. He says, while not saying anything definitive, he strongly hinted that an announcement would be made on 12/10 regarding ROH on TV or streaming, and that ROH content would be limited on Dynamite and Rampage after this week, aside from Chris Jericho. It should be noted that ROH's success for its first 2 pay-per-view shows was because those shows were heavily promoted on AEW programming. If ROH becomes self-contained promotion, whether TV, and certainly if it's streaming and isn't promoted on TBS and TNT, it's hard to believe they would be able to continue to do that level of pay-per-view numbers. This comes from Dave Meltzer. Mm-hmm. So that's twofold. I mean, obviously the TV deal is something everybody's wanted for ROH, but he's saying it's not going to be all flowers and cotton candy here. It potentially will be an issue if you're not promoting the show, if they're going to be considered 2 separate entities. Potentially that could hurt the ROH Pro. I don't know if I agree with that, because I think eventually you're going to be at least showing the cards, right? You're going to be at least showing the logo, and maybe you're not showing the characters on TV, but there will be some crossover, right? They can't be completely separate.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I think I don't know what Dave's thinking with that. It's like such an old school mindset, I think.
Right.
Because AEW is probably always going to be the bigger show. So even if it would be promoted better on AEW than it would be if Ring of Honor had its own show. I mean, come on.
Right. But the other thing he was stuck on for a while when this first happened, he was stuck on them having ROH even have its own brand. He said it wouldn't make any sense to run shows under the ROH umbrella when AEW is more valuable, but he loses sight on how valuable it is to build up the history. Like what AEW doesn't have is the legacy that ROH does. And when you combine the both of them with AEW's machine, AEW's resources, combined with ROH's history of everyone that's come through those doors, it's the perfect combination. To just slap and make this AEW Final Battle, to me, it doesn't have the same feel, and I wouldn't like it. I just think it would be, I don't know, it would feel hollow to me if it was called AEW Final Battle. It wouldn't make me buy it more than, it would make me buy it less likely than it says ROH. I don't know if that's just me being an ROH bubble guy.
Yeah, I think that AEW fans are going to get it regardless. And I think Ring of Honor fans that might not watch AEW are going to watch it. So I think it makes sense to do it the way they're doing it.
So before we move into top honors and preview all Final Battle, which is why you guys are here.
Real quick, just to add to that, I want to add this as well. I think Tony Khan has done a good job at making it feel different when these events do happen. I don't feel like I'm watching AEW. I don't know what he's doing, but it feels different.
Yeah, that was an important distinction to make for them and not move too far away. I felt like if you watch, obviously we both did watch the 2 other events that happened here, Super Card of Honor and Death Before Dishonor. Just seeing the camera work and seeing everything of the presentation, the lighting, it wasn't the same as AEW. I felt like going in, I was expecting to just see a change of the canvas and a change of the ring apron and a change of the turnbuckle post. That wasn't the case at all. It felt like a completely different product. And if you didn't tell someone that AEW owned this, it felt like just a very solid, fluid wrestling show that was owned by someone with a lot of money that put a lot of thought into it. And I thought that was important to do. It couldn't just be Dynamite with different colored ropes.
I agree, man. 100%.
So the other thing that I wanted to ask you, and this wasn't in the news and just popped in my head because there's been some conversation on social media and across the board with wrestling journalists, just comparing ROH's legacy and its value compared to ECW and its value when it went out of business. And a lot of people are saying that wrestling fans with the nostalgia fix that we all love are stuck in this world where ROH in our heads is much more valuable and much more meaningful than it actually is, while ECW had more of some money that WWE could have squeezed out of it, so it was worth having them make that a third brand in the whatever year that was that they decided to do that in like 06 or something after One Night Stand caught fire, so something like that. But for you, as someone who's watched ROH, is ROH's legacy and an impact on the wrestling world understated? Because I feel like it has just as much of a legacy and importance as ECW. I really do.
I think that, yeah, if not the same, maybe even more. Things like ECW, things like Ring of Honor are game changers. Like what ECW did with Attitude, right? I think Ring of Honor did with technical ability. Like Ring of Honor made it cool and popular to watch wrestling for the wrestling and not just the what's going on around the wrestling, right? And a lot of those dudes went on to be champions that wouldn't have been champions in any other era. Your CM Punks, your Bryan Danielsons, your smaller guys with really good technical ability.
Yeah, even Seth Rollins too. You can go to.
Yeah, Seth Rollins. Yeah. So it's a game changer. Like if you watch the way like someone like Triple H is running WWE now, you know damn well he was watching some Ring of Honor, especially with some of the guys that he brought in. Like it's a game changer, and I think that's what its legacy should be.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think when I read that from somebody and I see that pop up on social media, it just tells me they didn't ever watch ROH. They never like to be in the crowd and experience those matches, whether it be guys like Nigel McGuinness, and Danielson, every in ROH. Just the experience and the fan experience was similar to what it was for ECW, whether it be the streamers or just the crowd chanting. That was all very, very similar to ECW, and I don't think it gets the credit it deserves. Truly, I think because ECW flamed out so quickly, and I think ECW from its run, 95 really till 2001, that's a really quick amount of time. We're talking to almost 20 years for ROH. Like this is Tony Khan's only had control over for about a year, but people didn't really have time to miss ROH. It was just back in the fold and presented in this way. I think if ROH burned out the same way that ECW did, we'd be looking at it the same way.
The wrestling landscape as a fan is, I don't know, very contentious, and a lot of people are just contrarian. I think there are a lot of like really annoying AEW and Ring of Honor fans that will just like shit all over WWE, right? And those are the people that are causing the other comments to come up. It's became like this side or that side for not all people, not all wrestling fans are like that, but a lot of wrestling fans are. And I think that's where a lot of those things come up from.
For sure. The tribalism has no place in wrestling, but for some reason people feel like they have some level of stake if WWE does well or AEW does well. And I don't know. It's a weird thing that I feel like only wrestling fans and Star Wars fans have in common. Like that's the only two fandoms I see that, just like you said before, hate their passion more than anybody else in the world. They love to rip on it.
Yeah.
All right. With that being said, let's do what we came here to do. Let's preview final batting about the card, run it down, and just talk about it. All right, so we have the Final Battle 2022 card in front of us. You guys see it's scrolling across here. Let's start with the first match here, Freemz. Swerve in Our Glory, which is the team of Swerve Strickland and Shane Taylor Promotions, which is the team of Shane Taylor and JD Griffey. Let me just tell you how this match was set up, and I'll ask your opinion on who's winning, what you like about it, what you're looking for in it. So on the December 2nd edition of Rampage, which was last week, Keith Lee was set for a backstage interview before being confronted by Shane Taylor. And he pretty much said, this business between me and you is far from over. While asking what it was about with Lee leaving the family, he would reference how he left former partner JD Griffey in the Texas independent scene, how he left Shane Taylor in ROH when he signed with Evolve, and recently abandoning Swerve during the AEW World Tag Team Championship match. So then Taylor later threw out a challenge to him for Final Battle, with he and Griffey facing Swerve in Our Glory. Strickland would then appear behind Lee as Taylor left, with as hesitant Lee asking if he could still trust Strickland. So this match feels like from the outside looking in, it was thrown together, but really this has years and years of history built up that they're referenced in the Evolve stuff. Keith Lee being associated with JD Griffey and also with Shane Taylor. But it should be, aside from the story, Freemz, this should be a banging match, man. This should be a lot of fun.
It'll be good. Yeah, I'm very excited for it. I haven't watched a whole lot of JD Griffey. But until recently, I've gone through and watched some more of his stuff. Very impressive. The matchup is great. It's just a good matchup. A good mixing of styles there.
Do you think there's a spot for Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee as singles competitors on the ROH brand? Because I can see Swerve Strickland being potentially a main eventer in ROH. Even AEW, yeah. I think they're too top heavy in AEW, but this would be the perfect place for someone like Swerve to be presented and use his skill set, because I've been so impressed with Swerve. He's been one of my favorite signings as of late. And he just he's in the tag division, and I was hesitant on the Keith Lee stuff, but this has been freaking awesome. Like, he's been amazing.
Yeah, I'm a huge Swerve fan, bigger Swerve fan than I am Keith Lee.
Keith Lee?
Yeah. But yeah, we have two big guys and two quick moving athletic dudes. Like I said earlier, I think that Shane Taylor and JD Griffey are going to win this, which is going to lead to a breakup of Swerve in Our Glory, which I think needs to happen. I'm not big on Keith Lee, man.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. I personally am a fan of him. I have not been enamored with this AEW run, and I think he feels like that edge is gone. Like the edge we saw in NXT when he was the double champion and that whole moment they had, he doesn't feel like the same competitor. I'll admit to that, but I guess elaborate on why you don't like him. What's missing from the production?
I think it's just he doesn't have a character, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. He doesn't excite me. I don't get excited to watch him. I think he's a good wrestler. I don't think he's bad. And I don't think it's like mind-blowing that people like him. Yeah, it's I guess maybe how they're using him more than I enjoyed him more before Swerve in Our Glory, I think. But I think Swerve in Our Glory's played out, and I think that might be the biggest part of the problem.
It's a good point, and I think Keith Lee was one of those signings that AEW grabbed, and if he felt, even before he signed, everybody thought it was a foregone conclusion he'd come, and obviously he had the health issues that got in the way. So Keith Lee not being in AEW sooner than later was because of that. But for me, looking at him, WWE, they missed a huge opportunity. He was ready to be a next main event star. I think about the moment where him and Lesnar were face-to-face in the ring at the Rumble. Lesnar gave him the rub. He had all the charisma. People were singing his theme song, and they changed the whole production, and then the wheels fell off. I don't know what happened.
Even as I'm sitting here thinking, I could say it's because of Swerve in Our Glory being played out, but I'm excited for Swerve. And I see like the main eventer in Swerve, even through all this. So I don't know. Maybe there's more to it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, and I love the heel side of them. That wasn't even intended. They were originally a face team, but the Acclaimed, they did the double switch because the Acclaimed were undeniable when they were becoming tag champs, and All Out forced them to be heels. And Swerve leaned right into it. I think it was just amazing. And it brought out a great side of both these guys. But I agree with you as far as the finish goes. I think Shane Taylor Promotions gets the win here, and I think it has to happen because who knows with Tony Khan, because the way he presents newer characters, they do go in because he uses the WCW mindset, and there are times where they lose. But I think it's important to have people feel like Shane Taylor is a big deal, so he should come out victorious here. And you're right, use it to advance the Swerve in Our Glory storyline, and I think they should get the win. But Shane Taylor should get the pin potentially on Keith Lee, and I think that is the first notion that he is going to be here. Like, he's a main player in ROH, and I think that's what you have to set the table for. If he's going to be a guy you have and you're presenting him as a mentor, he has to be looked at as such, because this is truly AEW versus ROH at this moment. You don't want ROH to look lesser than.
Yeah. I also think about this too, with the Shane Taylor coming back. I don't know what his contract's looking like, but I would love to see Moose show up at some point.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know who said this, and this was a while ago, so forgive me on the podcast, but they did the debate, and someone said Moose was their top 3 favorite wrestler. And I hear a lot of great things about Moose. I'm not a huge Impact guy, but I've seen Moose here and there. But Moose would be awesome showing up here. I think that, like, if he's available, hell yeah.
Yeah. I used to watch Moose whenever he was in Evolve. But yeah, I'd love to see him show up. I think he'd be great on Ring of Honor. He was on Ring of Honor too. Moose was in Ring of Honor.
Oh yeah, he was during the Cody era where they were feuding, right? That was like 2016, 17.
I think Moose was in Ring of Honor even in like 2014.
Oh wow.
I'll second check that, but
yeah, while you second check that, I'll preview the next match. We have the ROH Television Championship. Samoa Joe, who's been on a freaking roll right now, taking on Juice Robinson. This match really has no build to it. Juice Robinson is a new signee. He just recently became officially with All Elite Wrestling. Samoa Joe is involved in a program with Wardlow right now. He's been on a roll. He had that great match against Darby Allin on Dynamite. I don't know. I mean, this match feels like a throw together. I love Juice Robinson. I love his work in New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm just expecting a good match. Not that much story here. Chances are Juice Robinson doesn't get the championship. I'd be shocked if Juice wins this. And if he does, that means Wardlow got involved. But I'm going Samoa Joe here. I think Samoa Joe gets the win here. Juice Robinson looks strong, but I don't think anyone's beating Joe anytime soon. I think they're building him towards something bigger than this.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a better match than what people are expecting. I do get that it feels like it's thrown together. I feel like this could eventually lead to something else going on. I think we'll get someone interfering or something. Because Juice Robinson's a good heel. I don't know if you remember. You said you liked his New Japan stuff, so you know about his.
Oh yeah, he's been his run lately. I mean, after Finn Juice and all that stuff. I mean, the tag stuff and then also his single stuff was great. His run with the Bullet Club and United States Championship run, like he's everything. He's the full package. I don't think the Moxley match he had in that one-off did him justice. I think this was a good opportunity. This will be a good opportunity. They give him 15 to 17 minutes to go all out with someone like Samoa Joe and show what he really can do. I think this is the time that people are going to be turning around from this show and saying, wow, I was impressed with Juice Robinson.
I have to mute real quick. I'll be right back.
Go for it. So as Freemz takes a phone call here, this is what we do on the Honor Society. I'm going to preview the next match. We have the ROH Women's Championship, Mercedes Martinez versus Athena. So to build this matchup, on the November 18th edition of Rampage, Athena, who recently has been turning heel following that TBS Championship loss, she defeated Madison Rayne. After that, so she continued attacking Rayne, and after the match, even had knocking on the referee, Aubrey Edwards, after she tried to intervene. Athena would later be confronted by the ROH Women's Championship. Mercedes Martinez making her first televised appearance since Death Before Dishonor after suffering an injury. So as a result of her attacking Edwards, Athena was suspended for a week. And the following on Friday on Rampage, Athena called out Martinez and put her championship on the line against her. So on December 1st, ROH announced that Martinez and Athena will wrestle for the title at Final Battle. So Athena, fresh off that program with Jade Cargill, where she didn't get the championship from her, Athena was one of those signings people were excited about coming from NXT and WWE. She had some momentum behind her, but this is someone who's been just lost in the shuffle. I think we can both agree on that. Athena seems perfectly fit for the women's division in ROH because the women's division has they're top heavy, similar to the men's heavyweight division. I think Athena doesn't have a spot right now to have a chance to win the women's championship. So this is a good spot for her. I think there is a chance she beats Mercedes Martinez here, I think, and it will really signal where they're going from here. Mercedes has had a decent run, but I mean, I'm going with Athena. I think they're going to put the title on her because she needs a win badly, and it's been a bit since she's looked like a legitimate threat. I know they try to convince us that she really could beat Jade, but dude, there was no way she was beating Jade Cargill. So I'm going Athena here, new ROH Women's Champion.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think it's going to be Athena, and I like it. I like the idea of it being Athena. I think Mercedes has done a good job at probably more so than up until recently, up until Jericho. She's really carried the brand as far as it being shown on TV. It's been Athena, or not Athena, but Mercedes.
Yeah, so, she's definitely had her stake as being an ROH champion that's defending. She was all over YouTube when we were doing these shows weekly. We were talking specifically about her matches and who she's defending against, and she's been a defending champion before getting injured at Death Before Dishonor. So nice to see she's healthy, but I think they're going to be moving in a different direction and have Athena as a heel becoming champion. I think that's a good way to start the ROH journey on TV.
Yeah. If you think about it like this as well. Mercedes keeping the belt's not helping her any more than what it has already. It going to Athena helps the belt, and it helps Athena not take any more L's. It just makes sense to do it this way.
100%. And the rematch in the future could be somewhere down the line, but I think Athena, to have Mercedes Martinez as a face chasing her would be a much better story than Athena just getting a loss as a heel and then having no heat on her. I think it's a perfect spot for her, a good spot for her to get a championship under her belt and build some momentum under her.
100%.
So the next match we have here is the ROH Pure Championship, obviously contested under Pure Championship rules. Daniel Garcia defending his championship against Wheeler Yuta. This is the third match between them. So Death Before Dishonor, Wheeler Yuta successfully defended the ROH Pure Championship against Daniel Garcia. Several weeks later on Dynamite, which was held in Garcia's hometown of Buffalo, Garcia defeated Yuta in a rematch to win the title. And on the November 30th episode of Dynamite, during a sit-down interview with members of the BCC and JAS, Yuta challenged Garcia to a third match at Final Battle, which Garcia accepted. So, Freemz, your thoughts on this whole feud between JAS and BCC? I heard a lot of clamoring that everyone's sick of this feud. Everyone wants long-term storytelling, but when it happens, they're like, I'm sick of it. I don't want it anymore. Just enjoy the ride. I love the layers of this where Garcia and Yuta are feuding. Danielson and Jericho were feuding for the longest time. They got Claudio feuding with Jericho. There's a lot of layers. This is one of my favorite parts of this feud. This is going to be an awesome match, and especially under the Pure Championship rules, hell yeah, Garcia and Yuta going at it.
And here's the thing. If these guys were not under a faction and the same feuds were still happening, people would love it. I just, like I said, wrestling, no one hates wrestling more than wrestling fans. I can't wait. We're about to get an awesome match that means something. That this feud has been great for it. Help build stuff up. I don't know. I'm excited. It's going to be a great match. Who do you got winning?
I'm thinking Garcia's retaining because I'm sticking with my hope of where the story's going. I think it's going to be Garcia versus Jericho with both titles on the line. And I don't know if that's happening anytime soon, but I want that to be the case. I think Jericho and Garcia for the championship should happen with both titles on the line.
It'd be interesting, but they would have to do the pure rules, right?
Which would be awesome to see Jericho try to abide by them.
Yeah. Or to see how he gets around not abiding by them. But
exactly.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Yeah, I'd be down to see that. Eventually, it is going to split up, but I agree. I like the long-term storytelling.
Do you think Garcia is taking the win here? Do you think there's a chance that Wheeler gets the win?
I agree with you. I think Garcia wins.
Yeah, and this is awesome. This is one of those stories, and the same thing with Claudio and Jericho. There's a history of repeat matches, which isn't just done for the sake of repeat rematches. There's story and there's layers of this feud that, man, Garcia and Yuta, we talked about on Dynamite, just this how we want MJF and Ricky Starks to be these rivals forever and comparing them to Rock and Austin and have your opponent that you can be tied to, like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. You want somebody to be tied to at their early stages of their, let's say, their major promotional career. Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta are tied together for better or for worse. And I think they're made for each other. I think they're the perfect yin to their yang, whatever you want to call it. They're the best combination. And I'm curious to see 10 years from now, just the history of how many times they wrestle each other and their best compilation of matches. I don't know. Something about the two of them in the ring makes magic. And mostly told at that Buffalo match where Garcia got the win. And I don't know. I love both of them together. And I'd like how they built Wheeler with the BCC label under him and Daniel Garcia going back and forth. Yeah, man, I think this is going to be a great match.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited.
So on the next match on the card.
This is the matchup. This is my second most anticipated match of the night, is what I'm trying to say.
For sure. And what I noticed at Supercard of Honor when they built up the Pure Championship, it confused the crowd. And I think now at this point, the second time they showed it with the Pure rules, the Buffalo crowd, obviously it's kind of skewed because Daniel Garcia was in the match as the hometown boy. But people are finally understanding what the Pure Championship rules are. And I think now the parameters are set for them to have a banger match. And they're set up on a spot in the card where hopefully they're going to surround it with things where it's not going to be overshadowed and set the crowd up for success. Because it's hard to... The best Pure Championship matches are built in succession, where you have the crowd starts off quiet and they eventually peak when it's time to peak, where the time limit is there and you have whatever, they're tied at 1-1. You have to build to that moment. It's not going to be a constant cheer because it's not that type of match. So it's challenging, and I give both guys credits for having the reaction from the crowds, because it's not because with the rope breaks and all the specific rules, it's easy for it to go sideways, as we saw with the Josh Woods match where people didn't react. So I'm expecting them to react because they care about these characters, but I'm really hoping that they get the time allotted and people give it the respect it deserves. And I think they will.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So the ROH six-man championship is on the line. They just announced this last week. Dalton Castle and the boys, which the boys are Brandon Tate and Brent Tate. They're the current champions, taking on the Embassy, Brian Cage and the Gates of Agony, Bishop Khan and Toa Leona. They obviously have Prince Nana in their corner. So Dalton Castle and the boys just won the six-man championship they won it from Vincent Dutch, right? That was the team they beat at Death Before Dishonor. Yeah. I don't think there's a chance that Dalton and the boys lose. I really don't. The Embassy has everything built to be a jobber faction. I didn't think that would be the case. But, I mean, we just saw Brian Cage get eliminated in a goofy way on Dynamite. Gates of Agony have been presented in I don't know, they're just a mid-card tag team. But put all the momentum, all the machine behind Dalton Castle and let this guy rise to top. He's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Gates of Agony feel like they remind me of like early 2010s Impact. I don't know. I'm just not a fan. I have respect for Cage. I respect them. I just, nah, they're not for me. Dalton Castle and the boys, that's amazing. I love that group. I'll actually be upset if they lose. Like, usually I don't get too upset about someone losing a match, but I'll actually be upset.
And their presentation, dude, is everything. And I think it spoke to Hawk seeing them for the first time, where he had tears in his eyes for Dalton Castle's presentation because of how much he loved it. And now forever, when I see Dalton Castle, I think of Hawk, and I just love the sincerity of how much he enjoyed that presentation. And I don't know, like it just, that's what pro wrestling is. Dalton Castle's pro wrestling, and that presentation, the pomp and circumstance and all the glitter and glams and the peacock feathers. That's to me what pro wrestling is. And to see it through Hawk's eyes, it made me even like it more, because I was like, damn, you don't think about it that way because we've been watching wrestling so long, we've become jaded. But when you watch it on the outside looking in, it's such a ridiculous thing that it works. Dalton Castle's pro wrestling, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's so good. The pageantry.
So yeah, I mean, I think we're both in agreement that Dalton Castle and the boys are getting the win here. I think it should be an okay match, but it's going to be interesting presented, especially now with the trios championship on AEW. Are they going to do anything that separates the six-man championship from the trios? Are they just, I don't know. I mean, with the Elite and Death Triangle, it's going to be really hard for these guys to keep up with what's been happening on the other channel with AEW. So I don't know. We'll see how it's presented. I'm not sure. I'm expecting a good match. Maybe maybe a quick match, but it's definitely gonna be a fun endeavor with Dalton Castle in the ring. That's what you could say about it.
It may feel like a big nothing burger, but I'm excited just because it's Dalton Castle. I think that's
Exactly.
the reason being shown, because you have to have Dalton Castle there.
So our sub-main event, I'm going to obviously should be the Tag Team Championship, is the World Championship. We have Chris Jericho defending his championship against Claudio Castagnoli. And the history here, we mentioned before, JAS and BCC have been tied together for months. But going back to AEW Grand Slam, Jericho defeated Claudio to win the ROH Championship with the low blow to Claudio, which is not in the Code of Honor, obviously. This went on to be Jericho's 8th overall championship, world championship, that is. Now it started his whole moniker, the Ocho. Since winning the championship, Jericho vowed to destroy everything related to ROH. And now he rebuilt his image to be, now it's called Ring of Jericho. We talked about the impact that he's had on ROH. But additionally, Jericho has defended his championship against former ROH champions throughout this run. He defeated Bandito, Bryan Danielson, Dalton Castle, Colt Cabana, but each time he cheated. So now Claudio is trying to build some respect back to the ROH brand, the championship. So he wrestled him at Full Gear. Jericho retained against him again, and Danielson and Sammy Guevara, pinning Castagnoli after a Judas effect. On the November 25th episode of Rampage, Claudio confronted the JAS, who were cutting a promo, and challenged Jericho to a rematch. Jericho obviously refused because he's a pussy heel, but after some convincing by JAS member Matt Menard, Jericho changed his mind. But now the condition is, if Claudio loses, he'll be forced to join the JAS. So that made it a little bit more difficult to pick, Freemz. I'm not exactly sure if I'm ready for Jericho's run to end, but I'm not exactly sure if I could see Claudio joining the JAS. Where are you at with this?
I mean, if he joins the JAS, it's going to be begrudgingly. You can have a whole lot of story with that alone. So I could see it happening, actually. I could see Claudio having to be in the JAS and having to deal with that for short term. It wouldn't last forever.
It's like the Cena and the Nexus thing back in the day, right?
Yeah. I mean, this isn't like unheard of, you know?
Yeah, is there a way you can get out of it, though? Like, once he's in the JAS, how do you get him out? Like, how do we do that? Because that's a weird booking dynamic that you have to finagle around, because Claudio's building some momentum around himself.
Yeah, I don't know how they get out of it. I mean, it would almost have to be with another match, I guess, but
yeah. But I agree with you. I think Jericho gets the win here.
Or the whole JAS breaks up. That's another way to do it, but
I guess. Or maybe just Claudio becomes a heel, and just have him with the JAS. I think that might be interesting, right?
Yeah.
Well, the BCC is pretty much no more. I think we can say goodbye to it. They're going to be loosely associated with each other, but with Regal gone and all of them sort of going to the wayside, I think they're going to be off in their own storylines, and maybe bring some attention to Claudio to be like the 1A or the 1B to Jericho's 1A in the JAS. It might be interesting. It might be a different layer to Claudio that we haven't seen yet. He's worked heel, but not so charismatic. Obviously, he's not a sports entertainer, but it would be interesting to see him lean into that.
I agree.
But I see Jericho winning. I'm not sure how. I know it's going to be with cheating. I just don't think ROH is going to go into a TV deal without Jericho as their champion. I can't see that happening. I'm not saying anything bad about Claudio, but I just think going into a new TV deal with an executive and sitting in a room, Jericho has much more star power than Claudio, and I think that's what they're leaning on right now.
At the same time, now that I'm thinking about it, if there's a TV deal, I can see them sending Claudio to Ring of Honor before Jericho as a full-time Ring of Honor guy. Especially with BCC breaking up. So, man, Claudio might win this. This one is hard to pick. Either way,
the stipulation makes it hard for sure. But yeah, I mean, it should be a good match, and I don't think they're main eventing with it. I obviously think the tag match is main eventing. You agree with that?
I think it would be ridiculous to have that match to make anyone have to follow that match. That tag match would be sick. That'd be gross.
Walk the plank and try to keep up with that. Yeah, it's a bad call. They made the right call the last event. They had FTR and the Briscoes main event, Death Before Dishonor, and that was the right decision.
Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on my
worst
enemy to make them have to follow.
True. So
Yeah.
main event here, ROH Tag Team Championship on the line. FTR, Cash Wheeler, and Dax Harwood are the defending champions against the Briscoes, Jay and Mark. So we know the history. We could talk about it, but just what were your feelings when you're watching Dynamite and you see the Guns pull out the Briscoes and then the dog collars out of the stockings? Challenge war match. Did you get chills down your arms to hear this happening? It took the cake for me for like, now I have to see Final Battle. I was watching it always, but now this means it's must see.
Yeah, I mean, man, I feel like I haven't even seen it yet. I feel like this might be the best match. I'm a big fan of dog collar matches already.
Yeah.
The CM Punk MJF dog collar match is like on my short list of one of the matches of the year. The other one that's on my list of match of the year is FTR versus the Briscoes, the first one. This could top both of those.
Which is crazy to say with how good those matches were, but I think you're right with the stipulation involved. The psychology in all these matches and how well thought out they are with the dog collar stipulation involved. It's going to be up there with the history of dog collar matches. And you can go through the recent ones with Cody and Brody Lee, Jacob Friedman and Punk. Those matches have been epic, and the stipulation will be the third time we're seeing it in recent years. And it's the culmination of feud. It's like what the cage match used to be. It's like now we're finally having the blood feud come to a head. And the crazy part is PWI put the Briscoes as the third best tag team of the year. They haven't been on national TV. Imagine what they can do if someone just gives them the chance to be on national TV. It's crazy that they weren't even pictured there and they got a huge pop. It just shows the impact the Briscoes have, and they are ROH. I think Tony Khan recognizes that. He's not going to do ROH without the Briscoes, but they have to find a way around a network that doesn't want them on TV because of the backlash with it.
Which there would be none, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is just do it. You know what I mean? Like, you just have to put them on there and deal with it as it comes. I think that's the fear is worse than what would be the fallout, because there's plenty of guys that have been on TV that have said similar things. You can point to Sammy Guevara. He said the things that came out and he was quote unquote canceled and all that stuff. And then he was back on TV after an apology. And the Briscoes have done that. They've apologized multiple times.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so let's go through the history of the Briscoes that they've had this year. So let's go rewind to Supercard of Honor. FTR defeated the Briscoes to win the ROH World Tag Team Championship. 3 months later, at Death Before Dishonor, a rematch between the two took place. This time it was a 2 out of 3 falls match. FTR defeated them again, 2-1 to retain the titles. And we talked about what happened. FTR failed to win the AEW World Tag Team Championship when they were confronted by the Guns, who appeared on the big screen. And the Guns revealed a Christmas card signed in blood by the Briscoes, challenging them to one final match at Final Battle. And as an added twist, the Guns would later pull dog collars out of their stockings. This was an interesting way to do this. There was some rumors that the Guns would be facing FTR for the ROH Tag Team Championship. So, like, Tony Khan leaning into the dirt sheets a little bit here, of being like, oh, you guys thought the Guns were going to do it? Oh, this is the match we're building towards. Just kidding. It's going to be the Briscoes, and everybody pops. So the history's there, man.
Yeah.
The only thing in my mind, I think FTR is going to win this match, but the only thing in my mind right now is, are they really going to win 3 straight against the Briscoes?
I disagree. I think if a show is happening, I think a show is getting announced. I really, truly think a show is getting announced. I think the Briscoes are going to be there as the champions when the show starts.
Man, that'd be amazing to see.
Yeah. And I could see them feuding with the Gun Club as like one of the first feuds of the new show. So I really think the Briscoes in this brutal of a match, these stipulations, I think they're going to win it.
Man, that'd be amazing. So what does that say about FTR's future? I know there's been some clamoring and conjecturing about what's going on with FTR, and their contracts are up soon. I think in April. Dax has said in the past that he would like to take a year off. Obviously, with Papa H at the helm and in Titan Sports, there's a chance that FTR will be booked appropriately there. Where do you see FTR going? Do you think this, if they lose the championship here, it's some writing on the wall? I mean, to me, them losing clean to the Acclaimed was telltale sign that they may be on their way out, and Tony Khan knows it.
I think they're going to the other brand, man. I really do. I think with Triple H there, what else can they accomplish here right now? I think they want that WWE Championship. I think that puts I think their career is going to feel incomplete without it.
Well, they've been WWE Tag Team Champions before. They won it on Raw, but I think the Undisputed, I guess wrestling the Usos would be sort of that feather in their cap, right?
Right. And actually didn't know they won the WWE Champions. There's a short period of time where I didn't watch wrestling. It must have been during
when they won and they were booked like shit, so they might as well have not been booked. They were booked like shit.
NXT. So
true. But I think with Triple H at the helm, they could be potentially booked like they were in NXT, where they were that tag team that everyone wanted. But they built their brand there at NXT, and I think they got a lot of momentum. People forget they were WWE PC guys, that they didn't come through the indies. They didn't have their start. They had their start with WWE, like that. People forget that. And I think it's important to remember like their roots. And the other thing is they are CM Punk guys. I think there's a lot to be said too, that they're upset with how CM Punk was handled.
So, and I don't want to speculate too much, but as an outsider kind of looking in, I feel like there's like two different types of people backstage for AEW. And I think that William Regal, some of the things that he said, even cement that even further. And I feel like FTR is like not about it. I think they want out of there.
It certainly feels that way. I think where there's smoke, there's fire with them.
Yeah. I think they're professional, so they would never let it impact their work. They'll never pull a CM Punk and like do some weird shit on a media scrum. But yeah, I feel like they probably want out.
Yeah, and I know that it's been said in the past that they were supposed to have that rematch with the Young Bucks because it's left on the table, and the Young Bucks didn't want to lose to them, quote unquote. But yeah, I mean, at this point, though, FTR has been presented like this year. Dax Harwood's wrestled pretty much more tag team singles matches than tag matches in the latter half of the year, and he just wrestled Danielson and lost. He's been 1-7 in singles action, and the only loss was to Cash Wheeler. The only win was against Cash Wheeler. So when you have the best tag team in the world wrestling in a singles match on a weekly basis, something's wrong. Like, I don't understand how you don't book the hottest tag team in the world, and you did your best to put them on ice. They were the most overact before the Acclaim. They got the biggest pops on every single night. You put them on ice. They still get huge reactions, but it's definitely been tempered down. You cut their knees out. Why would you do that? It feels like there's something personal and that there's some issues in the back with Dax, Cash, and Tony Khan. It feels that way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that scares me the most of AEW. Just since the CM Punk thing, I worry about how that company's being ran behind the scenes. And I'm sure it's fixable, but man, it's giving me NWO, WCW vibes.
100%. And as we kind of wrap up here, we're going to go with the final handshake. And Freemz, I appreciate you hopping on. I know you've been busy tonight, but it was great to talk to you about Final Battle. I can't talk about ROH without the creamy Freemz here, dude. This is like, it wouldn't be ROH without you.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm super excited. I was even like, I'll just do it from work. I don't even care.
All right, let's hit the final handshake. Let's talk about what's going on Twitch, and let's talk about all the stuff happening on the Tavern. All right, so I mentioned before, Freemz, twitch.tv/Freemz. What's going on there? I know you mentioned before a little bit, but do some more hype.
Yeah, man. Like I said, I took a little bit of a hiatus from streaming, only about 2 weeks, but I've been like revamping some stuff behind the scenes. We're doing a lot of like game show type stuff. You drink, you cringe, you drink, how you laugh, you lose. A lot of React stuff, playing more games than I usually do. So, but I always have people hanging out in the Discord and voice. So come by and hang out. It's been super, super fun. people seem to really be liking it. Definitely 18 plus for the humor. So
all right, so twitch.tv/streams, as I mentioned, you guys make sure to go to the turnbuckletavern.com, subscribe, continue to free content. So make sure you guys give a like. I think they had said it, too bad Chad's on the flagship. Always your love. Give us a subscription, give us a like, leave a 5-star review, and go to turnbuckletavern.com and look at everything we have. So we have some Honor Society merch up there. We have an Ace of the Tavern shirt, President Snee. We also have that Big Brain Confirmed shirt from Freemz. So check that out. You guys can also check out the wrap-up show. We have the Raw Down, Long Balls, Broken VCR. You name it, we have it here. Shot Nostalgia this Friday coming up. We're going to be reviewing ECW 1995, Enter Sandman. So that's Sandman defending his championship. Some great stuff going on in the Tavern. I'm just happy to be back on here doing the Honor Society. It's been too long, dude. It's been since July, but we had to get on here. Hopefully we can do a review show and get Sneed on here too to talk about it.
If a show gets announced tomorrow, we'll have definitely have to have some conversations here soon.
100%. But Freemz, any final thoughts about ROH to the Tavern faithful before we let them go?
Yeah, actually, I implore you guys to go back and look at the history of Final Battle. Some classic matches through, whether you're a WWE fan or an AEW fan, you're gonna find a lot of your guys in there over the past 20 years. So, yeah, check them out, man. You got Adam Cole matches. You have Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens. Check it out, man.
Yeah, listen to what Freemz said. He knows his ROH history. Go back and check it out. Final Battle. The streaming service will be up soon. I'm pretty sure Honor Club is up and running. I'm not sure if the content's there yet, but check it out. Stay tuned for that. Hopefully, the next time we get to you guys, we'll have a TV deal to talk about. But I hope you guys enjoyed Final Battle. I appreciate you watching. And as always, abide by the code of honor.